Hey there, welcome. We're about to jump into a really fascinating idea today. What if science and scripture, which we often think of as total opposites, are actually telling the exact same story? What if they're just two parts of a single grand design? Let's dive in and see how that could be possible. So, this is the big question we're really digging into. We're usually taught you have to pick one side or the other. You either believe in the scientific how or the spiritual why. But the source material for this explainer, well, it suggests a whole different way of looking at things. What if both of these paths actually lead to the same place, to one unified truth about why we're here? Okay, so let's break this down a bit. On one side, you've got science. It's all about figuring out the mechanics of reality. The physical laws, how life works, the cosmic nuts and bolts. Then, on the other side, you have scripture, which is trying to reveal the purpose, the meaning behind the whole shebang. The argument here is that they're not in conflict at all. They're just describing two different aspects of the very same creation. And this gets us to the absolute core of the idea. It's the belief that the universe isn't just some random accident. Instead, it's an intentionally designed stage, a specific setting where a much, much bigger story, a divine plan, is meant to play out over time. All right, so let's get into the first piece of this puzzle, the idea that the universe itself is sending a message that shows clear and deliberate intent. Think about it. This very first line from Genesis, it's not just a simple statement about how things started, it's a declaration of intentionality. The claim is that a purposeful, deliberate act put everything into motion, and that implies that everything that comes after, well, it's not an accident either. And this verse, wow, it just perfectly illustrates how that idea is carried forward. The perspective is that the natural world, the stars, the sky, the unbelievable scale of the cosmos, it isn't just sitting there silently. It's actively communicating something about its creator. It's bearing witness just by existing in all its beauty and structure. And you know what's interesting? When science looks at the natural world, it finds these exact same qualities. I'm talking about the incredible, mind-boggling precision of physical laws that make life even possible, the intricate beauty and perfect balance you see in ecosystems, the predictable rhythmic cycles of planets and stars. These scientific observations are seen as powerful clues, pointing toward a purposeful design, not just random chaos. Okay, let's move on to the next clue. This design isn't just sitting still. It's believed to be operating on a very specific schedule. It's almost like nature itself is a kind of giant cosmic clock. A key example used to show this is the story of the plagues of Egypt. The source material argues they weren't just random disasters happening one after another. No, instead, they unfolded in a very precise sequence, showing divine control over natural forces, things like water, insects, and weather, all to achieve a prophesied outcome. It's presented as nature being guided along a very specific timeline. And you see this theme of a divine schedule in cultural practices too. The ancient Israelite calendar, the specific timing of harvests, the way they observed the seasons. These weren't just for farming or social gatherings. They were seen as mirroring a consistent, divinely orchestrated timetable. The natural rhythm of the earth was woven right into their spiritual lives. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. It's this idea that these natural patterns that we can all see and observe also carry a much deeper symbolic meaning that points to spiritual truths. This brings us to a really important concept called typology. Basically, typology is a way of seeing the physical world as a collection of symbols or types that give us a sneak peek, a foreshadowing of spiritual realities. You can think of it as the bridge that connects the stuff we can see and touch with the unseen eternal truths. Here's a perfect example that we all know, the life cycle of a plant, right? A seed has to basically die and be buried in the ground before it can sprout into new life. Well, through the lens of typology, this simple biological fact becomes this incredibly powerful symbol. It foreshadows the core spiritual concept of death and resurrection. Or let's take something even more basic, the cycle of day and night. Darkness is followed by light. A time of rest and preparation is followed by a time of action and fulfillment. This daily universal pattern is seen as a mirror of a divine principle of timing that governs everything. So, here's the crucial point. When you start putting all these pieces together, the intentional design, the prophetic timing, and the symbolic meaning, a single coordinated plan starts to come into focus. The evidence for this single plan, according to this perspective, is all around us. It's in the fact that the universe runs on consistent, understandable laws instead of just pure chaos. It's in how prophecies are described as lining up with the natural order of things. And it's in this powerful idea that human history and the events of nature aren't two separate things, but are actually unfolding together as part of one single story.
So what's the ultimate goal of this grand design? Well, it's not just about having order for the sake of order. The story that's woven through both scripture and nature is one that at the end of the day points toward redemption, restoration, and a real sense of hope for the future.
And that brings us right back to where we started. In this view, science and scripture aren't at war. They're more like two different lenses for looking at the same reality. One lens reveals the incredibly intricate mechanics, the how of it all, while the other lens illuminates the profound purpose, the why. And together, they give you a much richer, fuller picture of this grand design. So, whether you're looking through a telescope or reading an ancient text, the idea presented here is that the universe is communicating something truly profound. Which really just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. If the universe really is a message, are we taking the time to listen?